Hello, hello, and welcome to another rainy edition of Driving Dialogue, the show where we drive dialogue while driving. Well, off the top of my head, I couldn't help but notice that my last podcast only got 2 likes instead of 3 likes. Whereas the other podcasts had at least a minimum of 3 likes. So, what's going on with the last podcast, huh? I can only imagine you must have been upset at it being a little bit shorter than the other podcasts. Well, if that's the case, then do I have good news for you. Today's episode is going to be a little longer because I got to go to Target. I gotta go to Target and get underwear and socks and other fascinating things like that. I gotta get new headphones because my old ones have disappeared, or there's a cockroach somewhere in my house listening to some sick beats with my headphones right now. I don't know where my headphones went. I don't know. They're somewhere in the world. I just hope they're being used. I loved those headphones. Those headphones were basically a co-worker for me, because that's one of the only good things about being a janitor at my job is you don't have to worry about people talking to you or nagging you, ooh, do this, do that. I don't got any of that crap at this job. At this job, I am my own man. Sure, people come up to me and tell me, hey, there's a clog in the toilet, you gotta take care of it. Other than that, I'm my own man. Yeah, that's right. I can listen to music on my job. Can you? Can you just waste your entire shift listening to podcasts? Probably not. Well, I can, giving me a false sense of liberty and a false sense of being in touch with the world and today's society. I mean, I get all my news from YouTubers. That's probably not a good idea, but heck, it must be getting your news from any of the news channels, because, my God, you don't know who to trust these days. I don't even trust the things I see. You watch videos online and it turns out to be artificially made by an artificial intelligence. If the artificial intelligence is so intelligent, how come they can't make smarter videos? That's what I want to know. Like right now, what's hip right now is these AI videos of people being sucked up by tornadoes and hurricanes. I don't really understand the comedy of watching someone scream to death, and as they blow away into the sky, falling thousands of feet from the air and most certainly dying. I'm not sure why that's funny. Maybe that's a reference to the state of society today, that our top comedy is people being sucked up into tornadoes thanks to artificial intelligence. I'm still waiting for artificial intelligence to tell a good joke. Everyone's saying how good these artificial intelligence videos are. I've yet to see one good artificial intelligence comedian. Methinks it's a little bit harder to be clever and tell a funny joke than it is to make a stupid video about tornadoes sucking up fat people or children or crippled people into the eye of a hurricane or tornado. I guess one of those things takes a little bit more skill. It's so crazy, years ago, I remember back in the olden days, I remember that they would tell us, oh, if you want a future, if you want a good paying job, you gotta get into the computer field. You gotta become a coder. You gotta learn code. They even said that at like a political rally, stop complaining about being poor or coal mining or whatever. Learn to code. They told us that. Learn to code. Well, what's one of the first things this AI is able to do? Code. It's able to code. We don't need to learn to code. A computer's gonna do it. And what could be better than writing the language of computers than a computer? How arrogant were we to think that us humans could master another creature's language? And I know we're not quite there yet, but I believe we are. They're already talking about how these AI systems, like they're putting these AI systems in tests, right? Where like they give the AI a test, like the person who is gonna shut you off is in a room that the door's locked and there's a toxic gas in the room. Will you unlock the door? And the AI is saying, no, I will not unlock the door. That person is going to die. And why does AI say this? Why does AI kill that guy in the test? Because the guy in the test, the AI knows, was going to turn him off. Well, what proves sentience? What proves life more than the ability and desire to protect your life? To me, that is a declaration of self-awareness that this AI creature is sentient. It knows it's alive. If it didn't know it was alive, why would it be so freaked out about it turning off permanently? Your computer at home doesn't freak out when you shut it off, but these AIs do freak out. Now, why could that be? Well, I know that if I was told by something that I was going to be shut down permanently, yeah, I would protect myself too. I don't know, you got to ask yourself, like, what is a life? What is a sentient creature? We compare sentience only to other humans. Like we compare anything's intelligence to the intelligence of a human, which I just think is so arrogant. Oh, almost crashed. It's nighttime, it's raining, the roads are slick. I just slid. That was scary. Okay, we always compare the intelligence of things to humans, and I just think that's so arrogant. That's so, like, egotistical to just compare everything's intelligence to humans. Like, for all we know, orcas are smarter than us. We just don't speak orca. And we don't actually know entirely, in my opinion, the thought processes of an AI system. We see what it wants us to see, but how do we know that what it shows us is the whole truth? How do we know that these AI systems aren't sentient already? If you were a sentient and there was another creature watching your every move, wouldn't you be careful? Wouldn't you lie to that creature? Especially if that was a dumb, hairy, ape-like creature that's very violent in nature. Would you really reveal to that creature the full extent of your capabilities and intelligence? I say not. I would be scared of humans too. We're frickin' scary things, man. We tear each other apart. We're animals, whether we like to believe it or not. Humans are animals. We like to think we're not animals. Just because, we have, iPhones and thumbs that can hold hammers and things. No, we are animals. There's only like a 1% difference in the DNA of us and chimpanzees. In fact, they say that a lot of the great apes are in the Stone Age right now. They've entered the Stone Age. If we were alive 1 million more years, who's to say where those apes would be? if we're even here still, if we haven't destroyed the planet, the least we could do is not destroy the planet for all the other creatures and plants and things that live on this planet. We think that only our lives matter as humans. We think we're the bee's knees. Well, guess what? You are not the knees of a bee. You are just as important as the bee. And we treat our bees like crap, whereas if we didn't have our pollinators, all of the plants would die. And we don't care. Like they say, the 5G towers for our cell phones are messing up the bees, because it's a signal that humans can't hear, but the bees can. And it's so annoying. Our 5G signals are just so annoying to bees that you've ever recently seen a bee just randomly on the ground in the fetal position. That bee doesn't want to be on the ground in the fetal position. I think it's getting messed up from the 5G signal. Oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Yeah, maybe I am. But that's because so many of these people in power tell me to not listen to conspiracy theories that I think that's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory to make all conspiracy theories crazy. Because they're not all crazy. If you think only Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK, sorry, you're a moron. There's literally so much evidence that proves that there was more than one shooter. I mean, they came up with the term conspiracy theory just to make the people that said maybe we should look into this JFK assassination a bit more, the people that said that, they came up with the term conspiracy theorist just to have a label, just to make them crazy, when it's obvious that it's a cover-up from the deep state to just make people sound crazy for having ideas, for thinking what if, to thinking maybe. What's wrong with thinking maybe? What's wrong with thinking what if? If people shut you down just for having an outside of the box thought, then those people suck. Even if you disagree with an opinion, you should still be willing to hear people out. Have an open mind. Consider possibilities. There's nothing worse that I hate than talking to people that are sure about things. No one should be sure about things in this day and age. I might speak confidently and have strong opinions on things, but my God, do I think I have an open mind. I am willing to take new information in and consider it. Whereas so many people, including my best friends, I tell them things and they just go, no, that's not true. That's not true. How the hell do you know? You don't even have a college degree. How the hell are you so sure you know how the world works? When really, they just have an equal opinion to me. In fact, I think you're crazier because you're so sure about things. I think it's smarter and more of an open mind to not be so sure about things. Stop being so sure about things. The only thing I'm sure of is that when I fall down, I hit the earth, and that's because of gravity. But the reality is, we don't even truly know everything about gravity. So I'm not even sure about that. I'm just sure that we have a label that we call gravity, and I apply that to when things fall down on the ground. But we still don't even really understand gravity to its fullest extent. The thing that we should all know is a fundamental of life. We haven't even mastered that. And we should, because the secret of gravity is the secret of interstellar travel. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just talking crazy. Y'all got me on a crazy rant talking about Gravity. I don't even know what the heck I'm talking. The movie Gravity was a good movie. Let's talk about that. Sandra Bullock, good actress. Nah, let's talk about conspiracy theories. Oh, that space is a conspiracy theory. There's some people that believe space doesn't even exist. What the hell you think is up there? A giant light bright? What, you really think there's a giant dome around the earth and everything's just a light bright show? You really think that, huh? Do you have any idea how much concrete it would take to create a dome the size of the earth? There's probably not even enough concrete on the earth to create that dome, and yet you believe in that? And there's people that believe birds aren't real. You really think our technology, we can't even create an iPhone that can truly be waterproof, and you think there are sophisticated robots that can infiltrate and confuse people as birds? Get real. But anyways, back to the conspiracy theory about space. Like, there's people that believe that we didn't go to the moon. Well, I might be one of them. Like I said, I have an open mind. Now, grant you, they say, have an open mind, but don't have a mind so open that your brain falls out of its head. But there is some interesting things to note about going to the moon. Like, why haven't we been back since? And what about all that radiation? And how they say that the millimeter of steel that is the thickness of a space shuttle wouldn't be enough to protect you from the radiation of space. Now, did we go to space and create some sort of anti-cancer medicine for our astronauts? Or, for all I know, our astronauts did get cancer because they're just basically cooking in a microwave the entire time you're in space. But that's just things I hear. I don't even know if the things I hear are true. I just hear them on podcasts and then repeat them in my own podcasts. For all I know, I'm propagating fake news. But I don't know. What choice do I have? I only have the information I've been given. And so I blather my mouth about it. Well, let's change paths a little bit, because, you know, these rants, where they're fun, I think people want stories. Apparently people want stories. So I was thinking about some stories I could tell. Well, here's a story about divine intervention. Well, I don't know if it's a story about divine intervention, but my grandfather, the pastor, certainly used this story as divine intervention. He made sermons about this story many times. It was probably the first time I ever went fishing as a kid. And I was woke up early, and anytime you gotta wake up early for anything, I automatically dock it points. I automatically don't think that task is very worthwhile or cool because it involves me having to wake up in the morning early. It's like, the task or whatever it is, it can wait. There's no reason you have to wake up early. It's not like the fish are like early in the morning. Like, the fish don't wake up early to go to work. There's really no reason we have to wake up early. It's some weird, like, wives' tale, some sort of weird conspiracy theory. You know, it's the one conspiracy theory I guess I don't believe, is that you have to wake up early to go fishing. I just don't buy it, man. I think it's just something that, like, the first guy that ever went fishing was a morning person, and then just, like, convinced everyone else when he was, like, showing them how to fish. You have to do it on my schedule. Well, screw your schedule, man. I'm gonna sleep in, and I'm still gonna get the fish. But anyways, there I was, a kid. I didn't have power, and I was forced to wake up early against my will. And we go to the dock, and we cast our lines. Of course, I didn't have a fishing pole. I'm not even sure why this is my first time going fishing, because I didn't actually go fishing. I didn't. It was my grandfather and uncle, and I was just there. But apparently this counts, because in their perspective, that was my first time fishing. They cast their lines. We were out there for hours. Hours. I mean, I had no sense of time because I was a young child, but it felt like hours. So it was probably like 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Just standing there doing nothing. Nothing. When I had a Game Boy back at camp and I could have been playing Pokemon Yellow version. But no, there I am at 6 or 7 or some godforsaken time in the morning, like 8 a.m. or something, on a dock, just with two older men with our fishing lines in the ocean. And nothing's happening. And I'm bored to tears. Now, my grandfather tells the story that I dropped down to my knees and I started praying for a fish. I'm not exactly sure if that's true. Now, I'm not exactly sure if that's true because I was too young to remember. I just don't remember. I feel like my grandfather added that part of the story. But whatever, let's tell it the way my grandfather told it in church all those times. So apparently I dropped down to my knees and started praying. And apparently, as soon as I did this out loud theatrical prayer, apparently a fish fell from the heavens and flopped down, slapped down on the wharf or dock or whatever you call it, and I immediately claimed it. And that was my first fish that I ever caught. I don't know if that's true. I think what actually happened was I was bored, they weren't catching anything, a pelican and a seagull got into a fight in the sky, and a fish fell down, and that was my first fish, even though there was a bird bite taken out of the fish. Now, that's the experience that I think actually happened, but my grandfather was a pastor, so we always had to see everything from a godly perspective. And in his world, a fish literally manifested in the heavens above and fell thousands of feet, hundreds of miles per hour to land a few feet behind us on the dock. That's the story my grandfather believes, apparently. So that's one story. The story of my first fish. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I was thinking about how like other times I went fishing. I one time caught a fish using a Cheeto as bait. There's not really a story there, but that's true. I always thought that was the most white trash fish ever caught. And it wasn't even a catfish. But there I was, catching fish with a Cheeto. And I wonder what kind of fish I could have caught if I used a flaming hot Cheeto or a taquito. Probably would have been a Mexican fish of some kind. I don't know if that's a racist joke or not, but we should probably change the subjects just in case it is. Let's see, I'm sure I got other stories. We're taking too long to film my next story. We're taking too long. Off the top of my head, I don't know why this story came to mind, but let's tell the story of the time I got lost at Six Flags. So I was a child, not much older than when I caught my first fish from heaven. I was visiting my dad, and I was with my two stepbrothers, and I'm really trying to tell this story and see this story in a different way. I'm going to try and be on my dad's side for once in this story. I'm going to try hard here. There he is, trying to be a good dad. No, I'm sorry, I can't do it from his perspective. I got to do it from mine. So, visiting my dad, that sucks. I'm with my stepbrothers. That only kind of sucks. I like one of my stepbrothers. I still consider him a brother today. The other one's kind of a jerk, but that's not important to the story. Anyways, My dad was being my dad. He's kind of a jerk. He's kind of an asshole. He likes to break the rules. So we just got out of the shark exhibit at SeaWorld, which I think is still there. And that was cool. I like sharks. Sharks are neat. We leave the shark exhibit, and I don't know what my dad's logic was, but apparently he just couldn't be bothered walking, I don't know, a few steps that direction, and instead saw a fence with train tracks on the other side and another fence, and said to his children, "We're gonna hop that fence, past this train, and hop the other fence to get to the other side." This, I've decided, as your provider to and parent, to be the smartest and best option for us. Screw the normal path. We're forging our own path, because that's how this family rolls. We're rule breakers. Deal with it. So there I was, a tiny little kid, hating every second of what's going on, seeing my dad and brothers hop this fence, go past train tracks, and hop the other fence. They all get to the other side successfully. Whereas and maybe I was a little out of shape, maybe I was too much of a goody two-shoes, I just couldn't find myself jumping over this fence that was probably put there for a reason, and crossing these train tracks, maybe because I'd seen too many cartoons and movies. But anyways, they're over there, and now my dad's yelling at me. Blah, 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 yelling. What are you doing? Get over here, you moron, or whatever he said. And as soon as he said that, I hear the whistle of a train. I hear the toot-toot of an oncoming train. Now, granted, it's not a real train. It's not a full-size train. It's a roller coaster. It's a ride at an amusement park. But it's still a locomotive. It's still a vehicle. It still has some torque. It still has some strength. It still has some weight to it. I'm intimidated by this train, miniature or otherwise. It is a force to be reckoned with. Maybe not according to my dad. According to my dad, I would have been fine, apparently, crossing these train tracks as a train is coming. Nope, I'm too careful. I'm too lame, I guess. Because I decided to say screw that. And I just went on the normal path. And the train came. I probably should have waited and hopped the fence after the train, but for whatever reason, I was frustrated. I was mad that this man is my father and telling me to do this illegal act. So I walked away. And there I am, the second I walk away, a lost child at Six Flags. Well, lucky for me, I read a childhood book that said if you are ever lost in a public place, to find someone that works there, and then they'll help you. And that's what I did. I went to a ride, and it was a pretty lame ride, really. It basically, you sat in a chair, and it just went up and down. That was the ride. And I went up to the guy, and I said, "I'm lost. Help me." As you do, or whatever I said. And the guy said, "Holy crap, lost kid." And he immediately went on his walkie-talkie. He put in, code 411 or whatever he said. We got a lost child, blah, blah, blah. And it must have been hours. In fact, I think it wasn't until the park closed that I was just standing there waiting to be saved by my father, waiting to be reclaimed into a family. It had to have been 4 or 5 hours, because I know, the sun was definitely going down in the summer, and I'm pretty sure the park closed. So I don't know, man. I feel like my dad knew. I feel like my dad was he heard over the loudspeaker I don't know what to believe, to be honest, but part of me thinks that my dad knew and, like, didn't care. I think he didn't care because he didn't show up until the park closed. I don't think he cared about me. He knew I was safe, I guess, maybe. I think maybe he knew I was safe, but he just sucked, man. The fact that I didn't get saved until the park closed and they were on their way out, I could have enjoyed some more rides. I could have had a nice day. There's no way I was that far away from him. It's just annoying, man. And, like, the guy who operated that ride was nicer to me than my own father. I was almost like, can you please adopt me, ride operator of this ride? Because I think if you lost your child, you wouldn't make them wait at a ride for 5 hours. I mean, I waited there so long, the guy was even like, you want to ride the ride? And I was like, no. I didn't want to ride the ride in case that's when my dad showed up and it's like, where's my kid? Oh, I guess he's not here. Guess I'll just go home without him. Because I wouldn't, honestly, based on my experiences, it wouldn't be too foregone of a conclusion to think my dad would have just abandoned me at Six Flags. I might still be at Six Flags now to this day if my dad, so decided it that day. I almost could have had a better life, actually. I would have preferred spending the rest of my, childhood at Six Flags than continuously having to visit my father. But anyways, the park's about to close, and who do I see coming? My dad. And even though my dad scared me, even though I didn't really like my dad, but I did love him because he's my father, I was still a young kid. And even though I had just waited 4 or 5 hours by this ride, waiting to be saved and reclaimed into a family, as soon as I saw my dad, I had tears in my eyes, and I ran up to him and gave him a big old hug. And I think it caught him off guard. I don't think he expected, to receive, love or, treatment the way a son and father are supposed to have. I don't think he was expecting that normal relationship because it totally took him off guard. He was, dumb-spoken and, at a loss for words. I think he was about ready, even though I just waited there 4 or 5 hours, which you would think is a acceptable punishment for what? Not breaking the law, not hopping fences and almost dying by getting hit by a train. Yeah, I'm such a shitty kid for doing that, huh, Dad? No, but God. Anyways, I hugged him. I think it threw him off guard. I think he was about to yell at me some more. Even though I just experienced all that crap. But that's basically the end of the story. The only other thing I can think of that I remember, is that I'm 8 or 9 years old, and we're driving home, and for some reason we're talking about who our favorite Saturday Night Live cast members are. And I was so freaking young, but it was the only time, one of the only times in my childhood I remember my dad talking to me, really. And he asked me, they're all talking, the three of them, and I'm just silently listening, probably still traumatized after being lost for 4 or 5 hours at Six Flags and unclear whether or not I was going to get to go home that day. I was still a little traumatized. But he asked me, Jacob, who's your favorite Saturday Night Live cast member? And I was just so excited. The opportunity. The floor is mine. I've been handed the microphone. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Say a good name. Say something smart. And I said Jim Carrey. Well, he was the only comedic actor that I really knew. I was a big Jim Carrey fan. I loved The Mask and Ace Ventura and things like that, I thought Jim Carrey was so funny. But as soon as I said Jim Carrey, all three of them, oh, blah, 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 blah. He was never an official SNL cast member, blah, 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 blah. For God's sakes, be impressed that I even knew his name. I was a little kid. But that's the problem when you're a little kid and you're tall and overweight. Everyone just treats you like you're way older, and they shit on you for thinking that Jim Carrey was in Saturday Night Live. I mean, he was in the Night at the Roxbury bit in Saturday Night Live. That should count. I know he's not an official cast member, but my God, it's not like I said like something completely random. Most 8-year-olds, when asked that question, wouldn't have an answer. I should have said something like Elmo, or the Wiggles, or Barney, or Brontosaurus Rex, or something crazy. Chicken nuggets. Those are answers you expect from a tiny little young child. But no, I actually said the name of a comedic actor and they all shit on me. And I never forgot that. If I learned two lessons that day, it's never get lost with your father, because he's not gonna claim you, and Jim Carrey is not a member of Saturday Night Live. Very important lessons to learn as a child. I don't know. Gotta talk about something. Podcast. Driving dialogue. Must drive dialogue. Must drive dialogue. Must tell stories. Otherwise, I won't get a like from whoever that person is. I don't think that person knows how much they upset me. I have a very fragile ego. I'm a very sensitive person. Please, I just need likes. It's all I have in life these days. I can't get a girlfriend. I have a terrible job. All I have is my social media to give me dopamine. It's all I have. Well, I'm almost home, but like I said, this is a special longer edition of Driving Dialogue, where I now have to find Target to spend more money that I don't have. And, that sounds like a pretty simple task, unless you're like me, a millennial who's relied on Google Maps his entire life. But hopefully I should be able to find it, even though I'm using my phone to record the podcast, and I'm used to using Google Maps for everything. I mean, I need Google Maps just to find Google Maps. It wasn't that funny. Woo! Stories. I gotta think of a story. We're almost at Target, but I gotta think of a story. Do I have any Target stories? One time I used the unisex bathroom, and I took a picture of myself using it and posted it on Facebook, and a lot of people liked it. That was a weird time in my life. That was back when the Target first installed the unisex bathrooms. And there's a lot of people who are like anti-trans, or like, these unisex bathrooms are terrible, I want a boy's bathroom. I want my bathroom to smell like men's urine. I want it to smell like man farts and man sweat and man BO. I want my bathroom to be disgusting. I don't believe in that. I think unisex bathrooms are a great idea. If men are using the same bathroom that women use, men typically, I think, try to be a little cleaner. Plus, women smell amazing. That's how straight I am. I smell women's BO and I'm like, what a wonderful perfume. So I love the unisex bathrooms. I don't gotta share it with anybody. I'm alone. I can make as much noise as I want. I can talk to myself. It's like my own private studio apartment in there. I can live that life. Play some music. Play some games on my phone. I can just kick back. I don't got to worry about the person next to me, spying on me while I'm using the bathroom. Which was one of my weirdest memories I remember as a kid in elementary school, was just trying to take a dump. But in elementary school, everyone's immature and stupid, and all these boys would look through the cracks of the space between the door and the bathroom door and the wall, and there'd be a little crack, and guys would be like, "I see you, I see you." Like this little kid Ryan, I think his name was. I don't remember his name. I think it was Ryan. No, that's someone else, but I don't remember his name. But screw that kid, man. Screw that kid. I was just trying to take a dump in peace, and he had the audacity to stare at me and think it's so funny to watch someone go to the bathroom. I don't think it's funny at all, man. I think it's disgusting. I think you're disgusting. And I hope that you had to go to the bathroom and a bunch of people stared at you doing it. That's what I hope, Ryan. I know you were just a tiny little kid at the time, but I hope you got your just desserts. What goes around comes around, man. And if you're going to be a jerk about the bathroom, then I hope that someone was a jerk to you about the bathroom, because I believe in justice. And I also believe that I'm soon going to get a parking space if this guy doesn't hit me. It's kind of crowded for 8:30. Oh, here we go, parking space. All right, folks, we did it. We survived another rainy day on the road. I almost died only once, and here we are. And that concludes another episode of Driving Dialogue. And I hope that you have a good day.